Dear believers of this young AC Milan, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to react together to the words of Zvonimir Boban, ex-AC Milan player, ex-manager of AC Milan, to the interview released today from Milan News. The words of Zorro Boban, ladies and gentlemen, are heavy, are super heavy. They are literally bombs if you are a true Milanista, because he's going to unveil some of the words and some of the things that happen behind. It is interesting because you can hear really you can understand how much he cared, and Paolo Maldini, how much he cared about Milan, and how much this club, this management is going against everything that we want, that we fan and even these people want. So I just finished to watch the interview in Italian and I was like, okay, how am I going to do a video? So I went on Sempre Milan and Oliver Fischer translated the whole interview. So thank you so much, Oli. Thank you so much, Sempre Milan, for this content. Now, guys, this is a video that I'm not going to put too much edit because it's late here at home. And this is a video that you probably want to listen like a podcast or so. If you want to read the full article, I will invite you to Sempre Milan to check out the last article. I will link it in the first comment below. But you know what? Let's go through. Good luck, man. Whew. So in the beginning, he started talking a little bit about the differences in between Inter and Milan and what are the differences at what level. He says when we look at the result, it's obvious that Inter is different. When we look at the club, when we look at the whole things, Milan and Inter represent two different things today. Technically, however, they are not very far away from each other. As we can see from the derbies, Milan can handle Inter. In terms of how to create a team that works well, yes, we are far away. If Milan makes 3 or 4 correct additions that rebalance things, hang on a second here. It says, now this isn't, but Inter, it is a competitive team. Always knows what they are doing. On the other side, Milan doesn't have an identity. In fact, this year have been 100 different identities this season, and none of them were right. Because you can't have a clear identity with this player. How they were bought and make them play. And it was understood since the summer, and then it was unfortunately demonstrated to us throughout the season. These words are gold, ladies and gentlemen. I think Zvonimir Boban, it is an ex-player, ex-manager, true Milanista, and still today he's watching Milan every single match, because I think it's perfectly sum up what we all think. In between Milan and Inter nowadays, technically, I mean, single player by single player, there is not a huge differences. But one has a project, the other one doesn't. Inter has an identity, perfectly know what to do all the time. Meanwhile, Milan does not have an identity, or maybe they have 100 identity. Which one is the real Milan? We don't know. Then Longoni from Milan News asked, this is a cool interview, let me tell you, because also it's not a preset interview, so he was able to ask any question he wanted. And this is the good thing, is the first interview out of 2. So there's going to be a second part. But let's keep going, guys. Let's take a step back in 2019 when you became a director at Milan. What memory do you have? So I left FIFA. Paolo called me when Leonardo left. My work at FIFA was pretty much done, and it just needed to be administrated after we clean up the organization in 3 years. Paolo wanted to leave. I told him, you are more Milan than Milan is here today. You can't leave. Then Zorro, as we call it, Zorro said, so I left Milan. Paolo was unsure where to stay or not. I was happy to return to the club that I love deeply. I wasn't born in Milan, but I became one. This club has something different compared to all the clubs I've known, and I say this not because I played there, but because it is true. I arrived and I realized that the whole team had to be changed. In fact, in the following 6 months, we changed 13 players. I this is cool. Listen, it was clear that we weren't complete. In fact, after the transfer market, I said in an interview that children can't play alone. The club were pissed. But I had to say it because it was right. Like, it was right. They couldn't grow alone. In fact, in January, we bought Kjaer and Ibrahimovic. Nothing would have been created of that Milan that is moving towards the Scudetto and also towards an identity. That Pioli, despite many things I didn't agree with, managed to instill. So he's saying pretty much that even though he didn't agree a lot of things that Pioli did, however, he was supporting the idea, of the mercato, of how the identity of Milan slowly is coming back, because Milan didn't have an identity before, and it's true. Milan didn't have, in Banter area, we didn't have an identity, but Paolo slowly brought it back. Is there a player from that year that you remember with pride because you left your mark? Well, here says, there was an agreement between me and Paolo. He had more to say about defenders. We did it together. We succeeded because there was too much respect between us. Sometimes I liked some defenders who for Paolo were a disaster. Instead of a tactical framework, I played a midfield in all system and understanding certain dynamics better than Paolo. In the end, we choose the players together where there was never a player taken without the other not agreeing. Maybe the Salemaker operation was nice. I did pretty much everything by myself. A 6 million operation then became 8. And somehow will explain me to do this. I have to say that I did something very strange things with Furlani, in the sense that we had to we had to convince Gordon Singer to leave us at least a little money from the sale of Suso and Piontek. It's the managers, they were right. It's just the ownership that didn't let them do, because they're thinking more as a head fund, as a money. For them, the most important thing is buying and reselling and make that margin of earning. That's it. That's what they are watching. That's what they are seeing. When did you notice that something is start getting wrong? From the beginning. Already with Paolo, that time at home when they told me the idea of how it works, and I say to myself, get ready, Rossonero. So we have to fight against our ownership for the good of Milan? And Paolo said, yes, more or less. It's not that I didn't know before joining that certain culture of certain non-culture wouldn't be a problem for us in our work. I accepted it's a very big challenge for me. It ended soon, but I would do it all again because I had to be done. Already in August, they took away my power of signature without telling me. To all those who want to know how things went, I said, read Paolo Maldini in the interview of the Repubblica. That is the sacrosanct truth. I don't know what does it mean, but that is the main truth. Then there was many ugly details, but let's not burden people with so many small useless story and ridiculous nastiest and absurdly placed limits. They had to put a certain Hendrik, who I don't know what he understand about football, who had to endorse what we did like a technical controller. So pretty much they place a technical controller over Paolo Maldini and Zvonimir Boban to make sure that they were not signing random players. This is one of the limitation that probably the sport director that now they are looking for, he could have. These are the things. That's why Furlani cannot find a sport director, ladies and gentlemen. Because who wants to work with this? Who? Unreal. This is even more, guys. In your this is gonna be the knife in your heart. Okay, are you ready? Listen, something that in the community always comes out: Milanismo and Italians player. Wait, in your interview in February 2020, there are 3 key concepts: ambition, Milanismo, and Italianness. I spoke about de-milanization. It was the fear. And it was clear that they wanted to make people lose that strength of wanting to belong. Because it's too big an emotion for someone who wants to control things differently. Sempre Milan, actually, always Milan, he says in the interview. What the fuck that means? You know, guys, this is making a lot of sense. This is making a lot of sense. Oh man, I have such a bad thoughts right now. But this is making a lot of sense. Because in a moment that you remove the tradition, the culture, the Milanismo, in a moment that you don't identify anymore yourself in a team, you're gonna lose interest, and then you're gonna start looking away. So they are able to do whatever they want. So they are able to literally do their circus. This is truly heavy, because that's the direction they are doing. This is the direction they are doing. Sometimes I was making fun of Cardinale, thinking that he's an Interista, but I actually wish that he was an Interista, because at least he will be put us in a competitive mood. Meanwhile, these guys, they want to de-Italianize, Milanismo. They want to remove everything from us, because in a moment that there is no more passion towards something that is dead, it's easier to control, because Milan doesn't have fans. Because Milan is becoming, in San Siro, they want to make it as a tourist stadium. Tourists, they come and go anywhere. Anytime they come, anyway. Mamma mia. Some at Milan, when talking about Now he talks about Moncada, you know. He said that he's an excellent scout, an excellent chief scout, but all the scout office in the world know the same players. Maybe it happened that one gets to one player, for example, Leao. He knew the whole world that Leao will become a big thing. So it was important to understand if Leao could change certain attitudes to play for Milan. And Moncada is an excellent scout or chief scout, but after that we choose the players, he introduced them to you and never went into the merits, because it's not what he does. He doesn't know what does it mean playing San Siro. So he take the players. He's good at scouting, okay, but then he doesn't know what they're gonna be their reaction in San Siro. What does it mean play in front of 75,000? How heavy is that jersey when you play in Milan? CDK, the Okafor, the Adli, the all the random player that we bought. Now it's just freezing my brain. In the end, it's not that he made a mistake with the purchase, but they are things to denigrate the strength of Paolo's work, given that he stayed all this year while I stayed 7 months. Then he says also that personally I went close to Dani Olmo. They literally they say that they didn't want for. Let me read here. We had, they had in their hands. He talks a little bit about what was going on with Dani Olmo, and also this guy here that now is at Liverpool, that goes the name of Soboslai. Listen, they had a deal. We had to close the deal. The boy wanted to come immediately in Milan, but it's been denied. I had to tell him, look, let's see about the summer, because he was very disappointed. He wanted to come to Milan immediately. He's not a great player. He's actually an excellent player. Olmo potentially was an incredible player. Man. Maldini eventually, last part, guys, Maldini was sacked. A shameful page, done in a shameful way, indecent, unacceptable, and I could say 1,000 of other bad things. Above all, for them, Paolo, and this is the wrap-up of the video, ladies and gentlemen, listen, this is the final chop on your heart. For them, Paolo represent, oh my God, I'm digesting right now, come on. For them, Paolo represented the last obstacle to do what they wanted. And the Tonali things had a big impact. Paolo will never let him go. We are looking at the difference of 70 million. I don't know how much specifically. A lot of money, but that should never happen when it comes to Milan. Because Tonali shouldn't have left the city. Because the boy is a Milan fan. When we contracted them, he told me he will never go to Juventus or Inter. Paolo Enrique signed him for a super price. In the first year, he was stiffened. I don't know what does it mean, but he was a bit scared by his love for Milan, by his respect for the stadium, and asked himself a lot of questions. My dad told me, look, he's afraid of playing. It was true, but given his potential, he needed a year to get used to it and breathe freely. Before, he wasn't free. He was too much of a Milan fan, leaving a symbol like this. Then after the title, after everything he did and how he did. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is how I want to wrap up the video. I think this club, it's really, the club, the management is very successful. This management, it is very successful. It's going towards the direction of deculturize the club. And the best things that we can do as a fan, online, in San Siro, everywhere, is to tell them we are not going any fucking where. We are not going anywhere. We're gonna support this team. We're gonna make you hate the moment that you bought Milan, because we want to be back. We want to be back on top, because that's the nature of AC Milan. Believe.